Alright, so welcome back. This video will just cover using our very simple model um, for prediction. And so remember last time we just had this really simple fitted model. 2.47 was the mean GPA of the 1,000 students at that university. And so we're predicting the GPA for every student to be 2.47 based on this very simple model. And so let's go ahead and use this fitted model and let's predict the first year GPA of maybe an incoming female student who has an SAT verbal score of 72, an SAT math score of 71, and a high school GPA of 4.0. Using our model, we're going to predict that her first year GPA is just going to be 2.47. Let's repeat that process for maybe an incoming male student who has an SAT verbal score of 50, an SAT math score of 49, so both lower than the hypothetical female student up here, and a high school GPA of 2.1, again lower than this female student's high school GPA of a 4.0. Using our model, we're predicting his GPA is just 2.47. And so you might take a second to think about, well, what's wrong with these predictions? And so nothing necessarily, it's not like they're incorrect, but they just don't make use of the other information that we have about these students. And so because we haven't included SAT scores or high school GPA or gender in our model, it doesn't take these into account at all yet. So this is kind of building us up to something, mainly including some stuff as predictors in future models. But for now, we're sticking with this. And so we're also going to define what a residual is for each observation. And so our definition is it's just going to be what the observed response is minus the predicted response from our model. And so each observation is going to have its own residual. And so it's often abbreviated as a little e, and putting what we wrote in words in our notation here, it's going to be the observed response minus the response that's predicted based on our model. And so let's go ahead and practice this, and let's find the residual for the first student in our data set. So I'm going to flip back to page 1, find that this first student has a first year GPA of 3.18. And so his residual, I'll put a little 1 here to denote that it's from the first student, is going to be that first year GPA, which was 3.18, minus what's predicted based on our model. What our model is predicting for everyone at this point is a GPA of 2.47. So if you do that calculation, you should wind up that first student's residual is 0.71. For the second student in the data set, we're just going to repeat that process. So the second student, I'm seeing her first year GPA is a 3.33. And then we're going to subtract what her predicted GPA is based on our model. Well, that's the same for everyone because we have this kind of silly first simple model where it's predicting the same GPA for all of the students. And so the second student's residual turns out to be 0.86. To visualize what these residuals actually are, we can draw a visual representation on our histogram on page 2. So I'm going to mark what the fitted mean is, which is this 2.47. For the first student, I'm going to mark what his observed GPA is, which was a 3.18. And so what the residual is just the distance between that fitted mean and what's actually observed. So for this case, it was 0.71. So the distance between here and here, if I drew the marks correctly, should be 0.71. For the second student, her GPA was 3.33, so I'm going to mark that about there. And then that distance should be 0.86. Notice that neither of those residuals were negative, but they could be. And if someone had a negative residual, that just means that their GPA is going to be somewhere to the left of the mean, just meaning that their GPA is lower than the fitted mean. Okay, and so you should get some practice with this using the handout for today. Again, if this model, if it seems overly simple, we're just not overthinking it. This is just a nice kind of baseline that's going to propel us into some more complicated models that are probably a little bit more useful than this very simple model. As always, let me know if you have any questions.